So why don't you introduce yourself for everyone who doesn't know who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Eryn. I guess I should just share like what I do in the world. Is that kind of what you're wanting to know?
I usually don't ask people that question specifically, but if you feel like what you do in the world is a part of who you are, then definitely share that. But a lot of people don't connect their career and themselves, so that's why I don't. But I
Yeah.
feel like for you, it's different.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit different for
Yeah,
me.
for sure.
I definitely like the work that I do is very much part of me and part of my heart. So I facilitate breath work and I write and I do energy work, and really I think through all of that I hold space for people to feel big feelings. And when I think about who I am, that's so much part of my story and my experience is not being able to feel, cutting myself off from feeling, for a lot of reasons, to survive, mostly like a very smart survival strategy that my little child self developed to like be okay.
Mm.
um, and so like coming home to being a being who feels and grieves and loves and feels lonely and wants to belong and wants to be liked and loved, um, is huge for me and has felt like a huge process. So I guess that's who I am when I really think about it. I'm just a human who wants to be loved and to love other people.
Same. Oh, I love that. That was such a beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Mm.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
As far as you said who you are and kind of what you do, but one of the questions I asked first, which you kind of touched on, but it's who are you on a soul level? So I feel like you kind of brushed the surface of that, but can you go more into detail about who you feel you are as a soul?
Mm. Yeah, I love this question so much. I like just want to sit with it for a second. Um, yeah, at a soul level, I feel like mm. What just came into my mind is like this image of like my little child self, and that just like feels like an anchor and a root for me. And when I think about that self, which is probably the most of like who I am at a soul level,
Mm.
it's creativity and it's desire, and like having an innate connection to body. I had a dream months ago where in my dream I died, and but I knew I was going to die before I did. And sorry if this is really morbid, but this
No,
is the
keep going.
dream. um, in my dream, I knew I was going to die like days before I did, and I felt in my dream this deep grief around not having a body anymore and knowing that I wasn't going to have a body anymore. And it was like my dream self knew, like, yes, I'm this like eternal soul. I'm not going to die. I'm going to change form, but I'm not going to have a body anymore. And in my dream, I was devastated about that, about losing the access that you have to the world and to senses and to nature and pleasure and all the things it means to be a human in a body. So
Mm.
I think at a soul level, like my soul really loves to inhabit a body too. And that's so much part of it. I don't know. Maybe I don't fully know who I am at a soul level. And I think I probably definitely don't, because I feel like all the time I'm knowing myself more, and maybe that's really what my life is about, is like coming into deeper understanding of who I am at the deepest level.
Yeah, I totally relate with that. And I don't think anyone fully knows who they are on a soul level because we aren't living this experience as a soul. We are like meat suits while we are here, as I call it. And I
Yeah.
think it's really beautiful how connected you are with your body because I feel like most people myself included, we're so up here, like just in the air and not really. I did yoga at a retreat earlier this year before COVID and like looked at my leg and started bawling, crying. Like that's how dissociated I've been like with my physical self, because being so like caught up in, I don't know, ideas and mind stuff, like not really coming back and saying like, I need to take care of like this, you know? And I think it's really beautiful that in a dream where you felt like, okay, I know I'm gonna die, I'm sad because I'm not gonna have my body. Like that's such a big deal, because I feel like anyone else just be like feared because like the idea of death, and you're like, no, I just like being a person and like feeling things, and, like, experiencing things.
That dream really meant a lot to me, and I totally resonate with what you're saying too. Like I'm definitely not in my body all the time, you know, absolutely. Sometimes I'm like all the way up here, and that's okay too. But yeah, I try and remember that like in my body is a really nourishing place for me to be and exist, and like a connection that I want to keep nurturing. Back to connection with Libra.
No, yeah, I love it. So what do you think has been the biggest impact, or like one of the biggest impacts on who you are today? So that's a big question, because I feel like you know the answer to that question. So you can talk about one thing, you can talk about multiple things, like you can answer it however you see fit.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, that's a huge question. I'm like, there's so many things. Where should I go? What's the biggest? I guess I'll just start talking and I'll see what comes up. But a couple of things are coming to mind, and I don't know, this feels kind of sad, but when you said that, like immediately the most like difficult things and the hardest things are coming up, right? Like the things that I am healing from and healing through, or like the things that have really shaped me, but also so many other things have shaped me too. But I think when I think about who I am now and how I've become this version of me, because I think I've been so many versions of me and they were all real, right? They're just who I was at the time, really comes from my parents. And I think I have had to do a lot of healing around rejecting being like my parents. And there was a lot that I was raised with that is not resonant for me, and that was harmful, even though I know my parents loved me, and it was always coming from loving intentions, but that doesn't always manifest in like what actually happens, right? And what actually happens to us and what we learn. And I learned at a really young age that I didn't want to be like my mom and I should be like my dad. And I think for a lot of reasons, like I'm a girl, I was a girl, a woman, and so I saw myself in my mom, or like what my future could be like. And I didn't want it. I was like, that looks horrible. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, which I'm also really grateful for, and is a huge privilege to have a mom who was around after the time that my younger sibling was born. But she also never really got to have dreams of her own. She never got to have a career that she wanted, which she really did want at one time as a writer and an editor. And she has still a really dependent relationship with my dad. Like she doesn't have freedom or independence or autonomy. And she is a person who embodies feeling. Like in my family structure, was like, my mom is the one who feels, and she's weak and she cries, and we all have to protect her feelings. And so all of those things, I'm like, I don't want to be like that. Like, I don't want to not be free. I want to be able to have work that I love. I want to be able to have independence. I want to feel like I have power. And that's like ancestral for me. It's not just my mom who didn't have power, right? It's like neither did her mom. It's like none of them did. Yeah. And so like that rejection brought me over to like I want to be exactly like my dad, which also is not right? But that's just like what I'm like subconsciously doing. This wasn't intentional at the time, but like looking back, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what happened. So like cutting off from feeling, like I mentioned, valuing freedom and independence above all, which has been a really harmful thing for me, that I've really had to work with in the past couple of years of like, wait, I actually don't want to be completely free, completely alone, completely independent. Like I want to be connected. And so moving through the beginning of my life anyways, feeling like that, and then having to realize through a lot of mistakes, through not being able to feel and process really hard things that I was going through, that I then had to process and feel years later, which is way harder, of ending relationships because I was terrified of being close and connected, and having to actually be seen and be loved. To realize that that was actually what was sort of happening underneath the surface. So yeah, I think my relationships with my parents have shaped me a lot, and what I saw as a kid growing up as what could be me, what could be my future. And also experiences of belonging and not belonging have really been profound in my life. And I had an experience when I was a kid. I was in middle school at some point. It's like, I think we all have trauma from middle school probably, because it's so horrible. Yeah.
For sure.
But I had a really traumatic experience. Again, I didn't like think of it like that at the time, but in middle school, where my whole friend group basically dropped me. And so I experienced at that time this lack of belonging when I wanted it so badly, and I had it with these people before, right? And I learned all kinds of things about myself that still impact me now. All kinds of things like I need to hide who I am in order to be liked and be loved. I should just be grateful to be part of the group. Like, so I need to just try and fit in and not embarrass myself. Like all these things, which basically culminated in like sacrifice who you are so you can belong. It's like,
God.
yeah, it's bad. And that was something I really learned. And in the past, I don't know, 5 years, it hasn't been that long for me to really connect the dots of like, oh, I have this pattern of abandoning myself in order to belong. And then I just feel horrible because I'm not me, and I don't want to belong in spaces and with people who I have to do that for. And so it's like those kinds of experiences too around belonging have really shaped me and have been healed by finding actual belonging with people who I don't have to abandon myself to belong with, you know?
Wow. Yeah, same. Like, you just said so many good things. I cannot comment because I just be talking all day, but same. Is there anything that you've learned in quarantine? So like, I know that you're self-employed, like you work for yourself. Yes. God bless you. It's amazing. So has quarantine really changed things for you a lot? Like, because you can still do your thing virtually, or you know, like we're doing like with Zoom and things like that. Like, is there anything that you've noticed, I guess, over this time of kind of having to pull back and spend less time in person with people? And then I guess anything that you've learned like about yourself that you maybe didn't really show itself before? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
that
was
makes
forming that
complete sense.
question. Okay.
No, yeah, that's
I was
good.
like, am I putting these words together? Like, okay.
Putting words together is hard.
Yes.
Yeah, so as far as my work, I'm really missing doing all the in-person stuff, but yeah, I'm like fully virtual, have been since mid-March, and things have changed a bit for me. And I think I mean, the being virtual only is definitely a change, but also like a lot of my clients and the people I work with are like servers and bartenders and
Mm.
students and artists and also self-employed people and small business owners. And so I think that's all just like, yeah, creating a little bit of a loop in this space. But definitely, like, I've made less money this year for sure, and that's been an interesting practice too. That's like brought up a lot of stuff around worthiness for sure, because
Yes.
I think, yeah, we tie money in with worthiness so much, and it's like, I've done work with this before, but then something happens like this, and like there's, oh yeah, there's more layers to it. Oh, there's more to to work with there. So that's definitely been coming up for me through quarantine, and personally, so much has happened. I got a crash course for sure in healing conflict avoidance and not avoiding conflict anymore when I had a really bad roommate situation with a new roommate that I moved in with during quarantine. So just in July, and already don't live in that apartment anymore because the situation was really bad.
Mm.
But that really required me to step into my power and basically like be confrontational, which is very scary and hard for me.
Yes.
But it was a big lesson for me. And like, no, you can't stay in a place where your boundaries are continuously being crossed. No, you can't stay in a place where you feel like you have to hide who you are in order to belong and be accepted. It's like common threads here.
Mm.
Like, no, you need to like actually have a direct conversation about this, that might cause conflict and might be uncomfortable. So like, that's definitely been present. And earlier in quarantine, I also was doing some breath work, and I had like an old traumatic experience come up that I've been working with processing a bit
Mm-hmm.
throughout the quarantine. And that was really hard because that was something that I've not consciously worked with. It was a memory that I actually repressed for a few years, and then maybe like last year or 2 years ago it like came back up, and I was like, holy shit, like I forgot that happened, but I was not ready to work with it. But it came back up in quarantine, so that's been pretty hard too. But yeah, I think it's all been a practice in absolutely knowing myself more and developing more tools and deepening the tools that I have for being with myself and caring for myself and loving myself, or trying to love myself anyways.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I want
Yeah.
to ask you how you got into breath work. Like, when did you first discover it? What kind of drew you to it? Um, and I don't know, just to maybe explain a little bit what it is for people who might not know.
Yeah. So I found breath work through doing breath work on a retreat experience, with a teacher that I'd been working with for a while, who was not, I wasn't working with her on breath work, but breath work was also something that she did. And so I hadn't done it yet with her. But I was already in this world. I was already reading tarot and doing energy work and all that kind of stuff. Um, but I was on this retreat at Kripalu, if anyone knows it, in Massachusetts, which is like so beautiful. But I did breath work on that retreat, and it was so wildly profound for me. It was like a room of 50 people, and we're all laying down, and we're all like breathing and screaming and moaning, and it was like very intense. And I just loved it. Like, I had such powerful experiences, like particularly I remember around anger. Like, we
Mm.
were invited to like make a lot of sound throughout it, and especially with this kind of breathwork practice that she was teaching, it's like very sound based. And I was like growling and roaring and making like the angriest sounds that I have never expressed in my entire life, which is like, of course, why they're coming out during breathwork. And it shocked me, and I was just like, what was that? Like, what did I just do? And I had to like take the rest of the day to just like be alone and process what the hell just happened. And then I was like, oh, I need more of this. Like, I need to do this more. And so I started doing more breath work. And I think that's kind of how it goes for me a lot of the time, is like, oh, I love this thing so much and it's helping me so much. Like, I want to share this with other people. And so then I started to train to like facilitate it and share it with other people, which has been really powerful for me as well. But yeah, I mean, there are so many different kinds of breath work, and the breath work that I work with is an active meditation technique that works with the breath, and it's specifically intended to move stuck emotional energy. So yeah, which means it can be very intense. Like, it can bring up a lot of feelings. It might bring up, like it did for me, as I was talking about, anger or grief or pleasure or love, or like really joyful feelings too. Like, all those things are possible. But this is also the breath work that I was doing when I said, like, I experienced, or I remembered and started working with my traumatic experience earlier this year, which was like a sexual assault experience. And I processed a lot of that with breath work. And it's not like do breath work and fix all your problems, but it is a tool that is helpful for me, and is helpful because it works in an embodied way. And that's kind of the piece that I have always needed and have always been looking for, is tools that don't just stay on a mental level and work just with our thoughts and our mind, which is also powerful and needed, but that go deeper into the body, because I have felt so much through working with breath work how much I have stored in my body, old feelings that I never felt, memories stored in my body that I'm afraid of. And yeah, working with breath work has helped me and continues to help me liberate a lot of that and move that through my body and feel the things that are still here that I haven't felt, and let go, really, like move them out of the body and just release them. So yeah, does that answer your question? It's hard
Yeah,
to talk
for
about breath
sure.
work.
No, I mean, that breath work is definitely something I've been hearing about for a long time. It's something that I've wanted to do, but I don't know how to do it. I've seen it done ish, just because of like YouTube and like Googling and looking
Yeah.
at websites and things like that. But I would love to go to a retreat where there was breath work and where people could release sounds that have been like pent up. Like there's another I don't know if it's the same thing as when people just like scream to the top of their lungs in a place. Is that still breath work, or is
You
that
can definitely, like, often I'll prompt people to scream during breath work for sure.
oh,
But
okay?
even just screaming alone is so powerful.
Yeah, like just being able to be loud.
Yeah.
Like I feel like well, I can definitely speak for myself, and that I've felt silence for a lot of my life. I never thought that I could truly express myself, or that even if I did say something, I didn't necessarily feel heard. So
Mm.
the idea of like whatever noise you make matters, and like do it as loud and as often as you want to, like that's really powerful and beautiful. And I would try it, but I don't live alone, so maybe I should sit in my car. I don't know, like
Yeah. I'm like, you could do that. I sometimes I'll
yeah.
scream into like a pillow or something, or
Yes,
like my
yes.
hands, like that still feels really nice for me.
Yeah.
But something I'll often say is like when I'm guiding people in breath work is like, take up more space with your breath, take up more space with your sound, because exactly that, like we're so often not allowed to take up any space, or not supported in doing so. And so we have so much inside that we want to let out and can't.
Yes. So do you have a any kind of routine or ritual that you do every day that kind of keeps you sane? Like do you have it in the morning, in the afternoon, or do you just kind of play your day by ear?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of having a daily practice. That's like what has been really supportive for me. So for me, my practice is always in the morning.
Mm.
Um, and it's not that I do the same things every day, but it's like I'm always doing a practice in the morning. Like the first hour that I wake up, there's nothing else that I do. Like that's open space for me to do whatever I feel I need. So sometimes I'm giving myself Reiki, or I'm doing breath work, or I'm journaling, or I'm dancing, or a lot of times a combination, or I'm lighting candles, or whatever feels good. But throughout quarantine, I've been at least journaling like every day. And that's been really powerful, and doing some kind of embodiment practice, whether that's dancing or breath work or something like that. And then that's always a constant. And sometimes I'll do something at night, sometimes I won't. I really feel like my practice is also woven into my life. So sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, I take some deep breaths throughout the day, or like, oh yeah, I like pay attention to my food when I'm eating, like I actually experience my lunch, or like I mean, I'm not doing that stuff all the time, but like in those ways, it's like my practice is just part of my life too, which feels really supportive. And I like to meditate at night sometimes because it helps me fall asleep better.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to start meditating more and dancing. I was talking to someone else about that like not too long ago. Dancing is so fun.
It's so fun.
And I mean, like, really just like moving your body however you want to. That is so fun. Yeah. And it's just like every chance, well, I get to dance. Well, not anymore because it's COVID, but before, like, I wouldn't, because I was terrified. I was like, people are gonna look at me and I'm like, what is she doing? Like, but I dance in the car, but when I mean, dancing in my room by myself and just like, it feels so good. I feel like that is something I should start doing like on a daily basis. You're the second person that said that, and I love the idea. I just need to do it.
Yeah, I mean, when I dance, even for one song, it's like my whole day turns around. Like it brings like such a different and like I've often thought about this for myself. I feel like one of the ways that I know that I've done a lot of work around belonging and being seen is that I can just like dance sober in front of other people and feel okay and not really care. I'm like, holy shit, it's taken me so much work to be able to do that, which is like a little thing, but yeah.
No, I love that. I will call you when I get there. And
we can go dancing together.
Yes, that would be amazing. Okay, so I usually give people 3 categories and I get them to tell me what means most to them and what means least to them. However, all of them are kind of connected. So I just want you to talk about any of these categories that you feel really passionate about and you feel like you have some kind of like advice or experience, or I don't know, just all around thoughts on. Or you can talk about all 3 of them if you want to, but you can also pick one, whatever. Okay, so the first one is love, sex, relationships. The next one is society, culture, politics. And then the third is spirituality and or religion, because everyone isn't religious. Everyone doesn't identify as spiritual. Some people don't do any of it. So some people do all of it. So it's like, you know, whatever speaks to you most, like you can just say whatever. And then if you want to talk about all of them, you can. If you just want to pick one, you can. It's kind of like a free for all for you.
Cool. I think I'll talk about love, sex, and relationships a bit, and maybe some religion thrown in there too.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, I guess I'll start there because my experience with like sex and relationships really can't be separated from religion because I grew up in a really religious family.
Okay.
I would like call them evangelical Christians now, or at least some of them, definitely my mom and other people in my family, which means I really grew up with purity culture, which was a really like shame-based environment around sex and the body and pleasure. I mean, there's so much, but I learned this in so many ways, like from church and youth group, and I learned it in my family and my house, from things that were said and things that were not said. It was just like all mixed together in this like, sex is bad and it's attached to your morality, especially as a woman. So if you're doing it outside of marriage, then you're bad and gross and disgusting, which is like so sad and really harmful to teach children, but that's definitely what I learned. And so by the time I was in high school, I really felt like, that's not for me. Like I And I don't know how I got to this point, because I know it's really, like, it can be really complex and loaded for a lot of people, but both my sister and I, who's a couple years older, were on the same page, and we were just like, we kind of think that's bullshit, like, about sex and also about Jesus, like, maybe that's not for us, which, like, absolutely no problem with anyone's, personal beliefs, but my problem that I have had growing up is, like, I was never allowed to have my own personal beliefs, right? It was always like, you have to believe what we believe. So growing up in purity culture and then realizing, oh, I don't agree with that. I was really curious about sex and really wanted to have it. So I was the first person in, like, my friend group in high school to have sex. And I ended up in a really harmful relationship from that space, a relationship that I would say now was abusive, even though I didn't understand it at the time, and it stretched on for a really long time. And in that relationship, what I learned about sex was that that's the only way that I know that I'm loved, because that was really the only thing that I felt from that person. Like, I only felt loved when we were having sex, and everything else was really, really harmful and manipulative and not loving and not caring. So that just, like, adds another layer of, like, baggage around sex, right, and relationships. So that was really hard. And I guess I'm like, there's so much to share about this, but I think what has really opened up for me in the past couple of years, because I've been working with sex and sexuality a lot, is, like, my understanding of my own bisexuality, which was something I didn't know until maybe 2 years ago, because that also ties in with religion as well. Like, I really learned that homosexuality is bad and it's a sin and you'll literally go to hell. And so I knew from a young age that I experienced attraction to girls at the time I was a kid, as well as boys. But because I was also attracted to boys, I just felt like, oh, everyone feels like that. Like, everyone feels like that. I'm still straight. Like, I'm into boys, so it's not a problem. Everyone feels like that. And a couple years ago, I was like, turns out everyone doesn't actually feel like that. But there's so much shame around that too. And, like, I'm still not out to some of my family members, most of my family members, my parents specifically, because I know that if I do that, which I might at some point, and I'm feeling like I want to at some point, but I'm not sure when that will be, I'm risking losing my family. I'm risking losing belonging with them and not being able to be in connection with them anymore. And so there's that question of, like, is it worth it? Like, am I abandoning part of myself so that I can fit in with my family? And it's like, it's my family, it's really complicated.
And you're close enough with your family to where this feels like a struggle, because I talk to people who aren't that close to their family because of it, and they're like, well, I'm just going to make the decision now. So it's good. I'm happy to hear your input about this, because you're still close to your family, but you close that really important piece of yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I am close with my family, and I mean, I'm out to all of my siblings, and they're all like me. Yeah, some of them are queer as well. So it's like we're all sort of together with that, and that's all great. But yeah, other people in my family, like my parents, it's something that weighs on me and something that I think about a lot. And I do feel like everyone doesn't need to come out. Like, I don't think that's an obligation that we have to other people or to our families. But part of me also feels like I want to. And I think that there's going to come a point, and I don't know when that will be, that I probably won't be able to hide that part of myself anymore and won't want to. And we'll have to make that decision. But when the decision is, like, expressing authentic self or losing family that you are close to and love, it's like, I don't know. I don't have an answer about that, but that's just kind of where I'm at with my family. And and sex. And I think it also, like, it all ties in for religion with me there, because that's the thing that is that block in my family. It's like my parents don't think that homosexuality is okay because specifically of the Bible and Christianity and what they've learned through that. And not just that it's like not okay, but that it's bad enough to, yeah, to reject your own child, your own family. And I've seen that happen in my family, which is why it feels like
Okay.
it's not this like distant thing. It's like that's a very real reality that actually happened.
Yeah.
And do I want it to happen to me?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
wanted to touch on what you said about everyone doesn't need to come out, and like how many people probably feel like it's an obligation or I don't know, like their duty to eventually tell everyone like who they are. Did you watch Disclosure?
Yeah. Yeah.
They spoke about that. Where a lot of people in the trans community are expected to disclose who they are for other people's comfort.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of saying like, no, 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 we don't care about how you feel. And like, if you're ready, it's about like, you need to let me know because I need to be able to decide if I want to be your friend or not, or date you or not, or associate myself with you or not, which is so selfish. And there are so many situations I feel that are like that. I think it just like breaks my heart even more so when it comes to sexuality and I don't know, just something that close to who you are as a human, like that's only yours to make decisions about. Like,
Yeah.
I really am happy that you said that because I think that'll take a lot of pressure off of some people because that is like something that looms over,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. I mean, that's just so important what you said. Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't really know I was gonna go there, but that feels right to share, and it's also just like so present for me in my life right now.
Question: what are you most afraid
Being left.
of?
Yeah, being left.
What makes you the most upset? Like, do you have any pet peeves? Really gets on your nerves?
I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when people judge other people, like will say something about like their outfit or something
Mhm.
like that kind of stuff. I really can't stand that because I feel
Like
so
being
much more
mean.
like, yeah, I feel so much more like, why does it matter if you don't, if you think their outfit's weird? Like clearly they're into it, good for them. Like I don't know, that just like that's probably my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah. What makes you really uncomfortable?
Mm, conflict definitely makes me uncomfortable. Um, being seen needing is also really uncomfortable for me.
Mm,
Like being seen in a space of having needs that are unmet, or like being seen while I'm having a big emotional experience is very uncomfortable. I'm totally comfortable talking about those things after they happen, but
yeah.
having someone present to the actual experience of it is a big growth edge for me.
Mm. What do you think about how our generation communicates?
Mm. um I don't know. Sometimes I feel like communication in our generation is really sad. I feel that when I get on social media a lot.
Yeah.
But then when I'm like FaceTiming my best friend who lives in San Diego, or like
Oh.
I'm on my rooftop with one of my closest friends here, and we're just connecting one to one and going deep with each other and being honest and being vulnerable, then I'm like, I don't know, maybe we're gonna be okay. Maybe it's okay the way that we communicate with each other.
You like find those people that are willing to be vulnerable and open and talk, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're not all bad. Like we can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so much there around, like, I feel like a lot of us are just afraid. Like, we're
Yeah.
afraid to be vulnerable with each other. We're afraid to, like, expose a tender piece or something because we don't know how it's gonna be received or if the other person's gonna be able to hold that with us. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes, yeah, our communication is really, like, hard, or we're not that open in that way. But then when we are, those are the conversations and the moments that mean so much to me and really feed me, for sure.
Mm. What do you question most?
Everything.
Same.
What do I question most? I mean, I think this is just naturally my personality, but always a big fan of questioning mainstream narratives,
Yeah.
questioning like dominant thought. And sometimes like I question it and I'm like, okay, this actually does feel like it's right for me. This might be true. And sometimes it's like, wow, no. I think I question pretty much everything that I'm told this is how it should be.
Mm.
Um, because I'm like, well, who? Like, who said that? Who said it should be that way? Like, even like this is a small example, but my partner and I moved in together this summer, just like a month ago, and we have separate bedrooms. And it's like you shouldn't do that. It's like something's wrong with your relationship if you do that. And I was just like, is that true? And I was like, nah, we just both really enjoy having our own space, and
Yeah.
that's going to be really good for our relationship. So it's like
Yeah.
little shoulds and big shoulds. I'm just, yeah, very interested in questioning those for sure.
And I love that so much, and I feel like so many relationships would probably last longer if you had space to yourself, because you I think when people, like, they have to just always be up under each other,
Yeah.
and it just gets, like, hot, and then you just gotta get
Yeah.
in the situation. So I think that's
Totally.
awesome, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you need to heal? So there are 2 questions in that. It's like, what do you need to heal? Like, what's something you've been putting off that needs healing? And then also, what do you need in order to heal?
Mm. So, okay, this is really vulnerable, but I'll just share it. So, I said like that one of the most uncomfortable, or one of my greatest fears, I guess, is being left.
Mhm.
And that's something I've been working with for a while. And the other night, I had this big realization while I was masturbating that at the same time that being left is probably my greatest fear, I also get off to it. Like, that's a sexual fantasy for me of being left. So there's something there for me, and that's like something I'm wanting to dig into and heal around, because like fear of abandonment, fear of being left is really terrifying for me. And when those things have happened, that's been so hard and traumatic. But
Yeah.
there's some part of me that's really getting off on that sexually. So that, yeah, that's like really interesting. Definitely
Yeah.
thing that I want to be working with healing. And I think I'm not sure what I need to heal that. I know that my fear around being left and experiences around being left heal a little bit every time that I share something really vulnerable or really scary or express a part of myself to someone I love and they don't leave. I
Mm.
know that's healing. Um, but I don't know, my kinky subconscious has something else in there too. So we'll see what I need to heal that.
Yeah, and, like, that's, I mean, really common, I think. I think a lot of the things that, like, haunt us also, like, get us off. Like, that's such
Yeah.
a common thing. I could Oh my god. I I relate to that. Um, the last oh, 2 more questions. Okay. One is, what's missing? So this can be in your life, or this can be like the world at large, or like however you wanna put it.
Yeah. Hmm. what's missing? I feel like something that is really missing, and probably in my own life as well, but also collectively, is breaking down binary. I don't know, it feels so much like things have to be either this or that. And even in like really radical spaces where I'm like, this is so resonant for me and I really agree with this, there's still like binary thinking still seems to be so prevalent. And it's like we're all programmed with binary thinking. I think it's like we learn from a young age. It's like things are yes or no, they're right or wrong. It's like they're this or they're that. And it's like there's not that much space in between for, yeah, full spectrum, for shades of gray. And so I feel like that's something that's really missing collectively, is like an ability to be in those spaces in between with each other, to not have answers but to ask questions. And I'd like to embody more of that in my own life and keep deprogramming binary thinking as well when I see it come up in me.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So, last question. If you had the world's ear, like all of the power goes off, but the phone screens, TV screens, computer screens stay on, it's like PSA, public service announcement, and then it's your face. It's like, what would you say to everybody? What advice would you give? What, just anything. Some people said they would faint. But it's like whatever you feel like.
Yeah, I'm like literally my heart is speeding up so fast right now. I feel like I have to say something so profound. What would
It
I
doesn't have to be an apocalyptic situation, but just a moment where it's like everyone is like, okay, what does Eryn
say?
have to say?
I think I want us all to breathe into possibility a little bit, and into the possibility of visioning and of dreaming and of hoping for and for creating um, the world that we all actually want to live in, that actually serves everyone, that's in right relationship with the earth, that oppresses no one, where we're all collectively in our power together. I think I want to create space for people to open up that idea that that could even be possible, because I don't see how we can change anything if we can't even vision that that might be able to happen.
That's amazing. That is literally like I want that like on my wall. Like
Oh,
for
oh
real.
my God, you're so nice.
Seriously though, I love that. That's so beautiful. And it's true. And it's like a beautiful thought too. Like that's something that I would want to meditate on, like just envisioning everyone getting along and accepting everyone for who they are while being able to like be themselves at the same time and
Yeah.
like also not ruining the earth. It's just like, yay.
Yeah. Also, let's not ruin the earth.
Right. Oh my God, this was so amazing. Thank you so much for like doing this once again. I know I've said it tons of times. Like I said, I'm being such a dork because I have listened to your podcast and like I mean, when I was first getting into spirituality, I was like looking for witchy, spiritual, alternative kinds of podcasts, and I came across yours, and I was just like sitting at my like 9 to 5, my like gray cubicle, and like it just brought me so much joy. Like just the people you talk to and how vulnerable everyone is and how real everyone is, um, and confident in things like just like you said, it's like, I have a very religious family too. So I mean some things is just kind of like when you're not gonna talk about that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really cool to find a podcast where it's like everyone here is like doing something different and they're happy. And I just think it's so beautiful. So thank you for creating that space. And I'm so happy you agreed to do this.
Thank you. I mean, that is like makes my heart really full to hear you say that, because podcasting sometimes it's like I don't know the people who are listening, you know, so it's just, it always means so much when people tell me that they listen and that it means something to them, that
It
it's
means
helped
so much.
them.
Never stop.
Okay, I won't stop.
If you have any, I know you said you do breath work. I don't know if you're doing that virtually right
Yeah,
now or
I
okay.
do it
So if you have
virtually.
any of that information, send it to me. I'd love to like attend a class or if you have
Oh
like
yeah.
workshops, that would be amazing. And yeah, anything else that you do, just I want to support. So just
Okay.
send it my way and we'll do the thing.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for having me. I think what you're doing is so awesome too, and I'm honored to be part of it.